Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Cutoffs and Coffee, episode 20. Today we have Coach Torrian Wilson, an O-line guru. You can find him on Instagram at crafting_lineman. Today we have an awesome conversation with Coach Wilson. We talk everything O-line. We don't only talk specific skills, but we talk mentality. We talk the importance of mobility and how important it is for a coach and a player to be completely authentic. Talk about injuries and adversity and how overcoming the fear of the injury to find out what's on the better side of that injury is so important. We also have an awesome special guest alongside our guest, Coach Wilson. We have Coach Dale Rodick, who is our O-line coach here at T3 Performance. And we have a little, what we're calling O-line roundtable. And so the four of us get in, we do a real deep dive on what it takes to be a great, skillful, smart, strong offensive lineman. And I think this is something that you need to send to all your buddies who play O-line and all the parents of O-linemen, because this is some really great info for you guys.
And as always, this episode is brought to you by Underdog Fitness. And today we're featuring the lightweight hoodie because it is fall. It's almost pumpkin spice latte season. So while you're sipping on that pumpkin spice latte, go ahead, get yourself an Underdog lightweight hoodie. It's great to lunge in. You can warm up in it before you take the tarp off to get to the cutoff.
Here we go. And if you like coffee, and if you like cutoffs, and if you like the podcast and you like what we're doing on here, give us 5 stars wherever you listen to it. Subscribe to us on YouTube, and then send us a message. Let us know who you want to hear, who you want us to talk to. We really hope you're enjoying the content. We love putting it out there for you. Without further ado, episode 20 of Cutoffs and Coffee with Coach Torrian Wilson as well, alongside James, CT, and Coach Dale Rodick. Here we go. Enjoy. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Awesome to have on the podcast today, O-line guru, Coach Torrian Wilson. Coach, thanks for joining us. How you doing today?
Man, I appreciate it. I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing great over here. We have an awesome opportunity today. If you're watching YouTube and you're watching the video version, you see that Coach Dale Rodick is here as well, kind of our O-line specialist, D-line specialist at the gym. And this is a awesome opportunity. We got Dale linked us all up, and we're going to do a little offensive lineman training roundtable, which is going to be super cool here. So I want to get into this. Torrian, quick question for you. Have a big following on social media. I know you work with a ton of athletes in the Florida area. A quick Google search gives us a lot of information about you. What's one thing that you think we need to know and the listeners need to know about you that we can't find from a quick Google search?
Man, that's a good question. I guess just the simple fact of, just being a God-fearing man. My dad was a pastor. So, I guess that's really the thing that you really won't know about myself.
Yeah. And you mentioned that's a part of your morning routine, right?
Yep. Every morning, wake up, I have to do a prayer, I have to do my goals, I have to figure out my goals for the day, and, kind of go from there.
Yeah, we've talked about it too, with a couple different guests about morning routines and how powerful and important they are for them. Mm-hmm. What have you seen since you've, started doing that? How long have you been doing this certain morning routine to kind of get yourself going? You mentioned you do your prayer, you do your gratitude, and then you work out. What are the benefits you've seen from having a good, consistent morning routine?
I mean, the biggest thing when creating a routine is just, it allows you to just stay focused and be focused. Sometimes when you wake up, I find myself like, sometimes if I don't wake up and I don't do my prayer, if I don't go work out, it tends to kind of have my morning or throughout the day kind of shift and kind of, it don't seem like everything is aligned, the right way. So, by me doing this routine, I feel like it just aligns me to, where I need to be throughout the day.
Yeah, I think that's so important, kind of start on the right foot. So why don't you tell the listeners your story, how you got to the point you're at now, how you got to be such a successful coach in the kind of O-lineman field. Talk us back from when you started playing ball, growing up, and then all the way to where you're at now.
Yeah, so born and raised in Miami, started playing football in the 8th grade. I really didn't want to play, but my dad, at one point I wanted to quit pretty much. My dad kind of gave me a life lesson that I still, live with and live by today. And he pretty much said that once you start something, you finish it, and just those few words pretty much took me to the point that I am at now. Got to high school once I, got a youth football, got to high school and ended up going to Miami Northwestern, which was at that point a powerhouse. And just to give you just some people that played on my team, man, you had Levante David, who's at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You had Teddy Bridgewater, Amari Cooper, Sean Spence. So you had all these guys that were, high draft picks, and we were all on one team. And so, we at that point, man, we was 30-0, hadn't lost a game in like 2 or 3 years, national championship and all that whole, the whole nine. By my senior year, I was ranked the number 8 guard in the country, 4-star coming out, had offers from pretty much everywhere, and then end up deciding to go to UCF. And the reason why is because, one thing was I knew my dad was sick at the time. So I knew he wouldn't be able to travel far, getting on airplanes and things like that. So I wanted to go somewhere where they would be able to just get in the car and drive and, be able to see me play. And that was way too close to home. I didn't want to be that close. I wanted to be, independent, far enough, but close enough. And Orlando was perfect enough. Went on to play there, became an all-conference player every year, Outland Trophy watch list, All-American. And then my senior year, going into my senior year, I had the opportunity to be ranked number 15 guard going into my senior year, and end up getting injured. Which kind of stalled a lot of the things. And still was fortunate enough to get picked up in the NFL, where I played for the Detroit Lions and then also the New England Patriots. There. So once I got done playing with my career, I pretty much was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. My whole thing was playing football. Grew up playing football. Is either football or nothing. That's kind of was the mindset in Miami. So I was kind of lost. So fortunately, a former coach of mine, Coach Mogridge, he reached out to me. He got a job at FIU, which is a university down in Miami. He reached out to me, told me that he got a position there, got the O-line position, and asked me if I wanted to come by. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll come by, not knowing that he was going to ask me, to work there, become his assistant. So went there, did that, did a year there, and then I found out, pretty much in my mind, I was like, man, I'm young. And I wasn't ready for that college lifestyle, pretty much, man. It's a crazy world being a college football coach, because you're there from pretty much to the time you wake up to to the head coach leaves, whenever that is. Yeah. So it's crazy. It's crazy. Saturdays, sleeping in the office sometimes. So it's crazy. It's a crazy world. So, I was like, man, let me figure out if I can go high school. So I ended up going high school to St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale. So while I was the O-line coach there, man, we won national championship, state championships. So I did that. But while I was there, that's where craft alignment kind of was born. Other kids were seeing the things that I was doing with this team, and they wanted to reach out about training and different things like that. And if you're familiar with the high school world, if I'm training a kid and that kid ends up coming to my high school that I'm coaching at, it's considered recruiting. So they're going to do a bunch of, investigation and all those things. So I went back and talked to my, my now wife, but at that time she was my girlfriend. But and I told her what was going on, and she was like, "Man, I think you should just go ahead and start a business." And she actually came up with the name Crafting Lineman. Yeah, I got to give that to her. Yeah, she came up with the name Crafting Lineman, and that's where it kind of was born.
That's so cool. I want to go back real quick, even before we kind of get into the next question here. The first thing you said, Coach, was, I almost quit. I didn't want to play football. Right. I know I experienced the same thing growing up, Dale. I don't know your story as far as that goes. I don't know if you always loved it, but I have those conversations more often than you would think. And I'm sure you do too with young athletes. It's just like, this is not for me. This is too tough. The hours are tough. The training's tough. Where would you have seen yourself? I mean, if you've even thought about it, if you would have quit football then when you wanted to back then and didn't follow out kind of the wise words from your father, where do you think you would be today?
Man, I have no idea. That's a great question. I have no idea. Maybe, working on a job somewhere. At that time, the big thing in Miami was working at the Port of Miami. So working on cruise ships and all those things. So that's probably where I would have been, just working on the cruise ship somewhere.
Yeah, that's something I may have to meditate on that idea for a little bit, because I don't think I've thought about that in a while. And then you brought it up because I did not like football at all growing up. Mm-hmm. That was the last thing I saw myself doing. But I'm thankful I'm thankful I stayed with it. James,
100%. Me too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have a rare combination of a lot of playing experience at a really high level, and then going into coaching and then doing it in the private sector. And, we get to see a lot of coaches. Not many of them have the playing experience and the background that you do. During your time while you were playing or while you were coaching, have you ever had any moments that kind of shifted your paradigm of how you coach or communicate, or what exercises and drills you do with your athletes that kind of shifted to more of what you do now with your athletes?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the way, so I'm a big firm believer in stretching the mobility. So, for about 15 to 20 minutes before I even get into a drill, we're working flexibility drills, we're working mobility drills, we're doing that whole nine. And the reason why I take that so serious is because, so my senior year in high school, I was injured. So I didn't play my senior year of high school. And, God was, still looking over me, still being ranked high, still being a 4-star, going to the Under Armour All-American game. Obviously I didn't play because I was hurt, but so at that point, that was serious. That was a knee injury, tore my knee, sat me out for the season. And then going into college, the same thing happened, with me and my knee. And then my last surgery was when I was with the Patriots. So, so that right there, and I felt that I didn't take mobility and flexibility as important, or took it as serious as I should have. So now what I can do now is everything that I've learned, or everything that I did not do, I can pass it on to my players now. And as far as like my drills that I work with now with these offensive linemen is pretty much predicated on just how the game has been evolving. The things that I've done when I played, some of it I can do for the most part, yes. But these defensive linemen and linebackers have gotten so much more athletic. Like right now, you have, let's say in the NFL, man, you have a guy like Myles Garrett who comes out and run a 4.4. He's running with wide receivers. So I can't coach you on that old school mentality anymore, because the game has changed. You're not having 4.3, 4.4 guys back in those days. And if you did, it was maybe 1 or 2 or 3 that really like stood out. Now you have multiple guys on each team. So it don't matter if you play left tackle or right tackle. You have in both sides, both defensive ends that can possibly run a 4.4, 4.3. So now, so you really have to evolve with the game. Even in the coaching world, my coach that coached me back in high school, and back in college, he's not coaching the same way. You know, I go back and visit him at Georgia Tech. He's at Georgia Tech now. The way that he coached me, he's not coaching the same way. And you wonder why some coaches excel and some coaches have to get, you know, other jobs or possibly retire. Because if you can't evolve with the game, then there's nothing that you can do with it.
Man, what are some of those things that now you're teaching the guys now that you weren't outside of the mobility, just the skill set stuff? You know, because I've just been exposed to a ton of the stuff that Coach Dale has put his linemen through, and it's incredible. And these kids move like, I mean, you know, you see these high level kids committing to these big time schools. I mean, they move at the size of you know, giants, which I would have never imagined these human beings be able to move like this. They move incredibly, and they're quick, and they're in and out, and they think on their feet. What are some of the things that we have to teach them now with these defensive ends, you know, 300 pounds running 4.4s? What's some of the skill set that they're going to need to you know, be good at that next level?
You know, one of the things that I make sure I tell guys, and from a young age, is, well, actually, I tell coaches this, is you have to drill depending on who your lineman is, who that player is. So if I have a guy who I know isn't, you know, probably the best athletic wise, or probably can't really control his own body, I won't have him doing the same drill that somebody that is able to do those things. So you have to really understand your player. And another thing, I was just watching an old clip on YouTube, and it was an old school coach, and pretty much he was just saying how, you know, we don't do footwork drills, we don't do this, we don't do that, right? And that goes back to the old school mentality. Like, now you better go do some footwork drills, you better go do some agility, you better go get on that ladder. Not necessarily saying that that's what we're doing on the field, but you have to get your body going. You have to get your feet going, right? Because people don't realize you're moving, using the ladder, doing all these different footworks. It's not only working your body, but it's also working the mental. You know how hard it is for someone to coordinate all these different movements and go through it. And, you know, so it's not only you're working multiple different things. So I definitely, I'm a firm believer in doing agility, doing footwork. It's something that if I don't get to it every day, so if I don't get to like the ladder or get to like a specific agility drill, I try to work it within my actual position drill, you know. And with that, it's like, you know, different things, like I go off a knee and we driving off of a knee. There's, you know, it's different things. I have a whole catalog of different things that I do, but just that whole sense of the ladder and things like that, man, that is an old school mentality. Get your alignment on the ladder, get your guys doing some type of footwork, whether it's with the circles that you put on the ground, or the hex circles. So all those different things you can definitely do. I even do a drill where, you know, we're going quick feet, where we're on the line. There's a line, and we're going quick feet up and back over the line with guys, and then they have to react to my voice or react to any type of sound. So now it's really having them to think about a lot of things. So now if you try to focus too much on your footwork, you can't hear the clap. If you try to focus too much on the clap, your feet start to move slow. So it's a lot of different things that I do with guys.
So,
yeah, that's so cool. I think about back to my playing days. Sorry, James, don't mean to interrupt, but, you know, we would be doing our pre-practice stuff or skill positions. Mm-hmm. And then the big guys would be, you know, queuing up the music to DJ, or they would just mm-hmm. be like, you know, catching up and talking about what was going on and what, you know, what the script looks like. But then I see you and I see Coach Dale doing all these movement drills and making these dudes quick and fast. And it's funny that even just in 5 years, how much that's changed. Dale, what are some of the movement drills that you've had with your guys that you've been able to see some success just over the short term, or working with some of these guys?
So I'm again a firm believer in agility as well, and also change of direction and reaction. I think those are the two most important skills I think you need to be a successful offensive lineman. Like, for example, like if I have like a pro guy come in and if we're just doing sets on air, I feel like that's just not cutting it for them. So like I like throwing some agility patterns with some hurdles. Coach said the hex rings, those as well. So just being able to move in athletic planes and then also use our skills as offensive linemen in the same sense. So like we're going through hurdles, we're doing footwork into a kick step or into a post step or something like that.
And you too, Coach, I've seen the blending of like what I would typically designate as like that speed work blended with your sport skills. And you two are kind of the first two coaches that I've seen do that, and especially do it with offensive linemen. As you're getting ready for your sessions, like what are some of the things that you're checking off in your mind? Like, I want to accomplish this today, or do you script out all of the drills that you're going to do, or do you kind of flow with your coaching session and get a temperature on the athlete and see how they're doing? Like, what's going through your mind before you get into one of these training sessions?
Right. So a little bit about myself when it comes to coaching and training. So I'm an organized person when it comes to training. So I don't like to be thrown off at no point. So I script everything. I come from Coach Brent Key, man, who coached at Alabama. Again, he was my coach at UCF. So, I take a lot of his things that he did, and I didn't even notice it while playing for him. But, just a lot of the note taking and just understanding what do I want to get done today. What's the goal, what's the objective for today. So I script everything out. And then as the day comes along or the session is going along, I might throw something in there that, okay, man, this happened, and now I want to see how he moves on this drill or this, so you have to be able to adjust as well. But for the most part, I like to script everything out so I can make sure I'm staying on plan, staying on target.
Yeah, I agree with that. But sometimes, like, I feel like I go off the fly, just based on like what I see in their movements. I try to target their weaknesses. So if they're having troubles picking up inside moves, like that's a heavy focus for today. But as far as like a general layout of a session, again, I'm a firm believer of the mobility aspect. Ever since I came to T3, I feel like my mobility experience has grown greatly. And then like I'm starting to get away from dynamic warm-ups. I kind of think they're boring. So I've been, throwing in some different movements that correlate to offensive line play. Like for example, like one, I do a med ball 45-degree angle bound, pushing off the inner edge of our feet. So like we do that for 30 yards down and back, we're getting pretty warmed up. Also throwing in some core movements, some med ball slams, power development, things like that. And then like I always like to focus on at least one pass technique and then also one run technique. And then I'm a firm believer of always having some sort of finisher, the mental grit of the session to get through, the tough, fourth quarters, overtime, things of that sort, just develop that mentality of, hey, I still got some left in the tank and, I'm gonna leave it all out there at the end of the session. So that's kind of like what I've been rolling with. So I was also interested to see like how, you go about like breaking down your sessions specifically to pass run and that sort. Like usually.
So it varies. So with dealing with my pro guys, I usually try to get 3 to 4 of each. So 3 to 4 run drills, 3 to 4 pass drills with my pro guys, because they're a little bit different than my college and my youth and high school guys. So they want to feel both. They don't want to just focus on one or the other. So with them, I focus on 3 to 4 pass, 3 to 4 run. And then I like how you said you do the finisher. So what I do with my pro guys, I flip it. So the finisher is first. So I want to see how you can you dig through adversity? Can you dig through being tired? Can you dig through not wanting to do it anymore? And now can you go play a game? Can you go in that fourth quarter and make sure that you handle business. Because when it get down to it, like, I don't know if you saw the game yesterday, Baltimore versus the Colts. It's a tight game. What was it, 31-25? They came back from, being down 14 points. So now at that point right now, that's the feeling I want you to feel while training with me. I want you to feel like I'm down and now I have to come back and win the game. And then with my younger group, my college guys, it's kind of flipped. It's the same thing. So the finisher would be at the end because I dogged them out with the drills. So now let me see you go finish. And then I don't know if you guys been in Florida or Miami, that heat is serious. It's 100 degrees and we on turf. So now, and it's no sympathy for me. I'm not giving you any sympathy because I never had any sympathy and I never gave myself any sympathy. And I don't expect anyone to give me sympathy, so don't expect me to give you sympathy. Now, I'm going to love you. I'm going to grab you. I'm going to have a gallon of water for you after practice. But while we're doing this thing right here, you got to give me everything you have. If not, don't come anymore, and I let it be known from the beginning, when you first started training with me. So with my other group, again, going back, I get a little passionate. So let me get back. So going back a little bit.
We appreciate that. Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that.
No, definitely. So with my youth and my high school guys, I break it down. So it's usually a pass day and a run day because I want them to really understand what's really going on. The guys who've been there, who've played, they understand what we're trying to get done. With my younger guys, I want them to understand. And I want to be able to slow it down for them. I want them to be able to ask questions. I want them to be able to know why we're doing what we're doing, not just go through the drills, but understand the reason why.
The first thing I thought about, Coach, when you said you do your finisher at the beginning for certain groups, I'm thinking, oh, Dale's boys are not going to like hearing that. You know what I mean? When Dale's going to start running them into the ground. Like, where'd you get this idea? Right. Pop on to Cutoffs and Coffee.
Right.
Talk a little bit more about, and I think this is so awesome about what you do, is you're not out of a facility. Am I right with that? You're just out there on turf. On your Instagram, you got a lot of videos. I was watching the coaches conversations you do. You're always in the car. You said, all my boys are sad I'm always in the car. We are blessed to have a somewhat climate controlled facility out there at T3. So in the summer, in the winter, we can stand being in there. You are in a position where you are always out in the Florida sun, in the Florida's heat, in the Florida humidity. How is that, maybe changed your training is not the right question, but how has that affected your training for what you do with your guys, just having to deal with the heat all the time?
I mean, you have to understand that, okay, right now you have to know when to tone it back, tone it down a little bit, because again, it's already, 90 to 100 degrees plus the turf, the heat index it takes it to, probably like 115. So you have to understand that, okay, I'll run them into the ground right now. All right, give them a good break. Let them come back, run them to the ground again. All right, give them a break, let them come back. So you really just have to adjust to it. Now, I am fortunate enough that I can get into a facility if I want to, but for the most part, they don't want to, unless it's raining or anything like that. Most of the guys that I train is just like, hey, we play out on the field in our game, so let's go out. I felt like that's the good thing about what I'm doing, is because most guys they want to be out there on the turf or the grass, just in the sense of this is how we play. When we get into games, when we get into practice, it's going to be the same thing. So they don't always want to go into a gym. I have the luxury of going to a gym, but
I think that's so impressive too, that you're able to have the following, you're able to work with the athletes that you're able to get just going out to a turf. I think that says a lot about your skill set as a coach. How do you think that, being put in that position, how do you think that's helped develop you as a coach? Just being in a position where you're in and out of your car and just on a local turf or field.
Yeah, man. So if the kids was to, or the players in general, like if they was to talk to you, man, they'll just be like, man, coach is as authentic as they come, because I've gotten to a point, man. I'm gonna be 30 next month, so I've gotten to a point now where I've faced a lot of adversity, man. So growing up, a lot of adversity, playing through a lot of adversity, being at a point where you don't know what the next move is once you're done playing. So, I've been at the lowest, and I've been, where I say I'm at my high right now because I'm fulfilling my purpose. So at this point right now, man, I just do what I want to do at the end of the day. So if I feel like hopping in the car and talking to a coach on Instagram Live, that's what I'm gonna do. Because at the end of the day, it's not about where you are, it's about who you are. And everyone knows the type of person that I am, and everyone knows, I'm putting out good content and I'm doing my thing in the training world. And it's something that I love too, man. So it's just me, man. Just me being me. That's all.
You speak about adversity, and I'm so glad you said that, because I made a note about that too when you were telling your story. I know both of you two, both you, Coach, and Dale, have suffered injuries that have affected your playing career. And I know a lot of times when we're in it, when we're going through it, we think this is the worst possible scenario. It could not get any worse. I don't know what I'm going to do after this, but both of you have been able to shift your mindset to understanding the actual true blessing of an injury and where it takes you, and kind of how you've got to be reflective and introspective. Coach, share your kind of story with us first, and then Coach Dale, I want to ask you as well on your perspective. But how has overcoming adversity, overcoming those injuries, changed you as an individual to get you to the point that you're at today?
So my first injury was in high school. I cried like a baby, right? So at that point right there, I thought, okay, my scholarships are going to be gone. My rankings is going to be gone. All of these things are going to be gone, right? Because as human beings, our first thing when adversity hit, the worst thing pops up in our mind, right? None of the positives come into our head, right? The first thing is the worst thing. So, right then I said, man, all these things is going to happen, this and that, but it never happened, right? I still had the offers. I still had this. I still had that. So now I said, okay, I can get through this. So then my next injury comes in college. Same thing, gets hurt. The worst thing comes in my mind. I hit a point where I feel depressed. And you're like, okay, I got through this too. Okay, cool. Now the next injury, same thing, at the pro level, you think all the worst thoughts. And again, you're like, okay, I got through this too. So now with me having all these different injuries and getting surgeries and all these different things, now I'm at a point now where it's like everything's gonna be okay, no matter what is going on in my life, no matter what life is thrown, whatever is being thrown at me, like everything is gonna be okay. So right now, I just have a so what now what attitude, about everything. So what this happened to me now, what am I going to do about it? To turn it from a negative to a positive. I even had shirts made with that. So all my kids wear that now. So it's like a so what now what mentality that we have. And that's why kids nowadays, they come to me, but they know not to come to me on a sense of feeling sorry for themselves, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want you coming to me if you feel sorry for yourself. Because at the end of the day, I've been through everything that you've been through. You cry about not having a scholarship. You cry about, oh, coaches did this to me. Oh, this happened. I want to transfer. I want this. I just talked to one of my guys was thinking about transferring because he had a bad game or something happened. And then come out this game, he ends up starting and end up just demolishing the team. So I called him. I said, never call me again about that. Stop feeling sorry for yourself, right? So that's just my whole mentality now, man. So I think that's what adversity did to me. It just gave me a so what, now what mentality. And, I just moved forward.
It's powerful. The fear often is greater than the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like you said, I mean, so what now? It's done. So I got to move forward to it. All this stuff is going to happen. You're thinking in your mind. And like you said, consistently, it doesn't happen. Fear has been way greater than the reality. Dale, you have a little story about that. Why don't you share with, some of the people who don't know your story about the injury, how you got to where you're at here?
So piggybacking on what you said earlier about starting out with football, I didn't play the sophomore year of high school. I always played, baseball and basketball. And then coaches always saw me as a big body. And, one year they just begged me to come out to play. And then ever since then, it's been my life. But I didn't really deal with any injuries until my college career. And they were all concussions, nothing knee, nothing elbow, nothing shoulder. I had numerous concussions in college. The last one leaving me unconscious in the cafeteria after practice. And it was life-changing. It was a horrible, horrible feeling, nauseousness, depression, headaches, not be able to sleep, not be able to hang out with my friends, not be able to go to games. I was kind of just on lockdown in my room, and it made me super depressed, like Coach said, to a point where, I went through all my therapy for my neck, etc. And the doctors declared that I shouldn't go back to contact sports. And I had 3 years of eligibility left to play in college, with dreams to, take it as far as I can, because I love the game. I love what the game did for me. But battling through adversity really defined who I was as a person, and it made me find my purpose in life. It took me about 2 or 3 years to actually figure out what I wanted to do after my last concussion, because I still had a year left of school. And then I decided to get my master's in exercise science because I thought I wanted to do cardiac rehab. And then I just had to sit down with myself and I said, man, this is not for me. I need to be around athletes. I need to, still help people. But dealing with that, it's really made me understand that this is just more than training. It's about mentorship. It's about relationships that we define with our athletes. And I feel that's been the most beneficial and the most rewarding feeling that I've had becoming a coach. I could send kids to, any university, but just being able to, impact another young athlete's life and, motivate them to, keep striving and keep grinding, even though, adversity hits. And then one thing that I kind of, I don't, kind of stand for what I kind of let happen in my training sessions is, that feeling of, taking the training session for granted. I always, refer to my injury saying, hey, man, I wish I was still training. I wish I had something, to work forward towards, as far as the football side of things. So that's something that I really like to bring up a lot. Don't take, the experiences in the weight room as a strength coach for granted. Don't take, these, all these positive, opportunities you may have with football coming up. So I feel that's kind of, what my injuries taught me. It taught me how to get through adversity. But on top of that, it really, maybe realize my purpose in life. And that's, to help young athletes and, push them to their next level.
Yeah, that's awesome. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes injuries and things like that to understand that. Appreciate you guys sharing those stories. Coach, you mentioned earlier the transfer portal, right? Well, I know on some of your conversations on Instagram you did, and you talked about transferring. All three of us are dealing with conversations like that. I mean, almost on a daily basis. I want to know your stance on it, where you are with kids moving around schools and being in 4 different schools in 4 years. When I was playing, I didn't even know that was a thing. I wouldn't ever even consider transferring. I committed to go to the school to play ball. I was going to play ball no matter what. James was in the same boat. Coach Dale was in the same boat. Where do you stand on the situation that we're in with youth being able to transfer around and kind of end up wherever they want to go, depending on how they feel in that certain day?
Yeah. So I get this question asked all the time. So the old school version of me would say, sit your butt there and do what you need to do. You know what I mean? Like, stay there, fight through it. Stop running from competition, because that's all you're doing is running from competition. You don't want to fight. You don't want to stand in the paint and fight. And if your back is against the wall, you fight to get out the corner. That's the mentality that a lineman have. That's our mentality. Our mentality, like I tell guys all the time, our mentality, like, you have to be a little messed up in the head to play this position. Especially to play offensive line, because you get no recognition. No one cares about you unless you're jumping off sides or, have a holding call. So you already have to be a little messed up in the head. So I just wanted to get that out there. But going into the transfer portal, now my mentality is this. Sometimes it is a good thing, because, you might have, and we all experience it, you might have a coach that really may be blackballing a kid, because he don't like him for some reason, or, he don't like what he did, or maybe the kid said something that the coach didn't like. So now the coach is probably sitting there like, okay, this kid will never play for me. This kid will never get on the field. So, and what is a kid to do? I know coach don't like me. I know coach don't want to put me in. I know coach don't, he's doing everything in his power to make sure I don't play. So now, am I supposed to just sit here for 3 to 4 years knowing that this coach don't like me? Or should I, take a chance, put myself in the transfer portal, whether it's a better school or a worse school, but at least I get to play. And then, you have some instances where, guys just run away from competition. Sometimes they put that what do you say earlier, that fear. You put that fear in your head. You put that analogy that, oh, coach don't like me. But in all essence, you have a senior in front of you who's probably gonna get drafted. Like, just wait your turn. Just give it a year, and then you'll be a starter. So it's the best of both worlds, man. And I experienced both as far as with some of my kids. You had coaches that just didn't like him. He might have said something, and coach felt like you disrespected him. And now you just sitting there. And then again, it could be a positive thing, because you can go somewhere and end up being a top player, possibly, getting drafted, just a whole nine. So, you really just have to sit back and do what's best for you, in my opinion. But if it's strictly on the fact of you just running from competition, I don't think you should transfer. I think you should just fight through it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You made me also realize that, maybe that's the situation I was in when I was in school. It's the story that I haven't thought about in years, and I don't mean to make this the point about me, but I actually, unbeknownst to me, went on a date with the head coach's son's ex-girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
In college. And then they actually switched my position. They moved me around. I'm like, what is going on? What's the deal? And then now I'm thinking about it. Maybe that was, maybe I should have transferred now
that probably was definitely it.
Yeah. Man, how about that? I appreciate you bringing that to mind. That's funny. So you guys obviously share a passion for the position, a passion for the sport. As skill guys, a lot of time, James and I, as skill guys, we understand the importance of the offensive line, because, the quarterback doesn't get the ball. The quarterback doesn't get the ball to the running back, doesn't get the ball to me to be able to catch the touchdown. For, like you said, for me to be in the newspaper, for me to be in the magazines, and then your guys not get that opportunity. Please explain to the skill athletes listening how important your guys' position are, because they all need to hear it. Because I didn't realize until later in my career how big of a part that you guys play to the success of an offense and the success of a team.
Yeah, I mean, like, if we don't go, the team don't go, the offense don't go.
Right.
It's that simple. If we don't do our job, your name doesn't get called, quarterback doesn't make the pass, running back doesn't score the touchdown. So we're the heartbeat of the team. My coach used to always say, like, we're the big brothers of the team. And we really are. Because if you think about it, no other position besides, DBs, all five guys have to be on the same page, at all times. Every now and then you may get it, a guy miss a block, you might have a incredible running back that may make a guy miss. But we all know that you missed that block. So all five guys have to be on the same page. And guys don't, they laugh when I say this, but my second favorite position is, defensive back. And the reason why is because, they're doing similar things as our tackles, always in the back pedal, always everything is going backwards on the island, everyone has to be in sync. So your corners, your DBs, if you're looking at a game, they're communicating 24/7. If one guy rotates, the other guy has to let the other guy know I'm rotating. If we're going into a different coverage, we have to be talking every single moment. So, and that's the same thing with offensive line. We're talking the whole time, letting each other know what we're doing.
Yeah, you agree with that? You guys think you're important?
Oh, 100% agree. So one thing that always stuck with me was, when I was playing center, like the coach would tell me, we don't have a football play if you can't get the ball back. Mm-hmm. That was one thing that really like struck my mind. Like, wow, like bad snap, turnover, that's on me. Or, ball doesn't get back there in time and, the play's delayed, that's on me. But, I totally agree with you. I don't think we get as much recognition as we should. But at the same time, like we should also understand that how hard offensive linemen work. To be able to, move 300 pounds quick, fast, down the field is something that, should be on notice that, it's hard. It's hard to be 300 pounds and to be able to move another human being from point A to point B against their will. And you guys have that mentality of, just of a bully. And, it's a crazy position. I think that, starting to get more respect as the days go on.
And to kind of piggyback there, like that's a great point. In the fact of like, we're probably the most athletic group, no offense to all your skill players and wide receivers, I love you guys. But at the end of the day, we're the most athletic guys because, for instance, your tackles, and that's why they're the highest paid position, because you're moving in an unnatural position. You're going backwards while a guy is coming at you full speed forward. And you have to be able to stop his force and sit down and react off of what he's doing. You know how athletic you have to be to do those things, man? It's crazy. And that's why I say I respect DBs because they're pretty much in the same boat, versus wide receiver. That's why I compare wide receivers to defensive ends and DBs to tackles, offensive linemen.
Yeah, you make a great point there. I just pulled up your Instagram, crafting_lineman, and it says developing big athletes. And I was going to say something exactly to that point. I mean, it's strength and speed and agility and mental fortitude. And even if skill positions don't agree with that, you guys are so big, nobody's going to disagree with you. Like I'm not going to go up to any offensive lineman and tell them they're not the most athletic player on the field, but I totally agree with that. I've seen some offensive linemen do things that I know skill players would never have the skill set to be able to do. What do you think, Coach, are characteristics that separate, those good offensive linemen, the guys who you're talking about, the guys getting paid the most money, the great offensive linemen, the guys getting the most money in the league and the first round draft picks and all that, and just the good offensive linemen? What have you been able to see in your time that really makes a big difference and separates the two between good and great?
I mean, just to give you just a couple that really over the years, well, actually these past couple years that I started to see, from training, top players from first rounders to, free agents. And, one of the things is, obviously physicality, right? How physical are you? Are you a guy that, like Dale say, are you able to move a guy from point A to point B against his will? Another thing is, which is probably one of the most important, is the mentality. Like, do you have that mentality to understand what you're doing? What are you trying to get? What are you trying to do? And then also the mentality that when things aren't going right, like, are you able to adjust? Are you able to, if I give up a sack, can you move on to the next play? Or are you one of those guys that's still dwelling on that sack? Because people don't understand, like, that you're dwelling on that last sack, you're going to give up another one. So you have to be able to move forward. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to not dwell on what just happened. I tell my guys all the time, you can't fix nothing that happened in the past. Like, you can't do anything about it. But what you can do is fix the future. So don't worry about that last play. Move on to the next and then get things going. So that's really some of the biggest things that, that I saw, was just the physicality and the mentality that you have towards the game. Because one of my coaches, when I was with the Lions, my O-line coach, something that he said, and it's a great point, is if you're doing something strictly for money, it's not going to last that long. So for pro guys and things like that, if you're just doing it just to do it, it's not going to last that long. But if you're doing it because, like, you really love it, you really enjoy it, you love getting up in the morning, that's all you think about. You see these guys that have passion, even outside of football. You see all these guys that have passion for whatever they're doing. Like, they eat, sleep, breathe it. And that's really how you have to be, when playing this position, playing this game, because you're getting hit 24/7. You're getting hit 24/7. You're delivering a blow 24/7, and your name isn't being called. You're not in the limelight. So now, like, that passion has to drive you every single day. So that's really the biggest thing from the great and the good guys, in my opinion.
Now, Coach, we've talked about mental toughness, attention to detail. We've talked about structure. We've talked about speed work, getting our feet right, getting our mobility right. If you're working with a young kid, so like, if we have, some of our athletes are going to be listening to this, they're, 7th, 8th graders, where do you start? That's a lot of information for them to be able to digest and process. What are some little things that you can give our athletes that they can take away from this conversation? In the 7th and 8th grade, they're just finding out that there's skill work for linemen and there's things to do that can help them be better on the field. Where do you start with a 7th or an 8th grader when you start working with them?
I mean, the biggest thing is they have to realize, and I tell them that you're gonna mess up more times than not while training with me, and it's okay. I let them know when they come in with me, it's okay that you don't know it all. I feel like social media sometimes, man, these kids want to be better than what they are right now. It's like, man, enjoy the process. Whoever your coach is, whatever drill you're doing, just take your time, understand the why, and get it, and do what you need to do. But the biggest thing is, when you have a 7th, 8th grader, is not just going through the drills. Make sure that they're understanding why you're doing what you're doing. Because, like, my biggest thing is, I want you to go home and understood what we just, like, you should be able to go tell your parents exactly what we just did, what we just worked on. That's my biggest thing. And if you can't do that, and you come the next day or to come train with me, and you forgot everything that we just talked about, or everything that we just, went over, then I'm not doing my job. So before you leave my training session, you need to understand everything that we just went over, the why. And, they just have to understand that it's a process. Everything is not going to come all at one time.
Yeah, I totally agree with all that. Do you have specific and kind of transitioning down? I'm looking into some of these Instagram questions. Do you have three favorite drills that you would do? Maybe we say like the young guy, the guy just getting going, and then the high school, and then the pro guy. Do you have maybe three different drills that you're trying to get, let's say, the same thing out of, the same intention, but just set it up differently for different age of athletes or different knowledge of athletes? Could you give us a couple of those things, some of your top favorite drills? And then Dale, I'd like to hear from you too, because you've got a ton of stuff that I don't see really anywhere else besides Coach Wilson's Instagram as well. So what are a couple of your favorite drills that you do with your guys?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that I do with everyone that I have to make sure I do on a daily basis is just working our stance. That's one of the biggest things I have to make sure I get across, because people don't realize how much your stance play a part. Like getting into your stance and coming out of your stance. A lot of times you might tweak a block or get injured or something, and all along it could be just because your stance is incorrect. So that's one of the biggest things I work with everyone, is just working the stance. And then another thing is just making sure that like in the pass game, for instance, like Dale said, is just working our sets, getting movement going. I like to do a lateral drill where we're moving around, kind of like a mirror drill, but with the med ball. So now it's not your traditional mirror drill where your hand is behind your back, and because we don't play football like that, right? We don't play football with our hands behind our back. So so a lot of times what I do with guys is I have them holding something in their hands, whether it's a med ball or whatever it might be at that point. I have a twerk tool as well that I use. So I have them using something where they put it in their hands. So now they're actually feeling, the position that they need to be in. And then in the run game, I like to work a fit drill. But with the fit drill, it's not your normal foot drill where you're at a standstill. So your feet is not, not moving. So what we do with that drill is I get their feet firing, and then we get into a run game. And the reason why is because I want to simulate them driving guys. I don't want you simulating, being stopped or being stoned. So I want you to get your feet going as well. And that all these things are on my Instagram as well.
Yeah, that stuff is awesome. And I love conversations like this because people listening can pause this, go outside and try those drills right now. I appreciate you sharing those. Dale, a couple similar ones, but similar question. What's some of the stuff you like to do with your guys that you're doing that you don't see a lot of guys doing outside of your guys' training?
Starting like a younger age, I think pass pro is something that not a lot of middle school, even freshman, high school, sophomore coaches teach. And that's how to, distribute their weight in their stance and to also drive off the correct leg, if that makes sense. So if we're kicking to the right, we got to drive off our left inner edge to, gain that ground rather than reaching back with our right leg. So just like honing in on the little things like stance, proper footwork, posture, I think is a huge one. I know a lot of, younger athletes, tend to not play with good posture. And I think that's a huge portion of O-line success. And then when it comes down to, like the pro college guys I work with, I try to, translate it into real game scenarios to where, they're actually getting looks that they would actually get in a game. And again, I think, Coach Wilson does a great job with the creativity as well, using med balls, using, different tools of that sort, especially, not, having a lot of, like a ton of access to equipment. You don't really need a lot, you just need a couple bags, a couple med balls, and you can, get a, full game training session as far as offensive line. For the run game, I love the med ball rolls, to focus on hip mobility and, posture. You can do it from side to side, put the ball on the ground, and then we're going to roll it, using our run game footwork. weights on our inner edge of our feet, and we're running and rolling ball at the same time. So we're hitting out a couple different skills when it comes to offensive line, posture, mobility, and weight distribution. And then that's something that I do with a young athlete at the first session, and then there's also sometimes I do the same exact drill with a pro guy, just because it's a little bit harder for a 6'8" individual to get their hips low on a med ball compared to maybe a middle school offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could imagine. Anybody watching the video, you would have seen it, but if you're just listening to the audio, the coach, you seemed pretty adamant to the point when Dale said that younger coaches with younger athletes aren't working on posture and stance. Is that really missing in kind of this world right now?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Don't get me wrong. You'll have a few, but that's where the game is being, kind of overshadowed or not being taken advantage of. With the youth guys, you don't have a lot of coaches that's teaching them the proper way to do things. So a lot of times you're getting a lot of these youth guys getting up to high school, and you're wondering why they can't get in the stance. For instance, a couple of weeks ago, I had a kid that I was training for the first time, and he was putting the wrong hand down. He's on the left side putting his right hand down. So little things like that right there should never happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of the first things that you tell a kid. You're on the left side, left hand down, right side, right hand down. That's probably the basic of the basics, when you tell a kid and coach a kid. So, those little things, and for those that's listening, that's my pet peeve, man. I hate seeing kids do that,
Man, I've had high school kids come to me doing that.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Man, that's my pet peeve.
Day one stuff. All right. Now I got to keep my eyes out for that, at the gym now, Coach, when you work with some people. So, last thing I want to ask before we get into the Instagram questions, we do have a couple really good questions here. Where do you guys see the future of the offensive line or the offensive line training going? You guys are both towards the front of your field. Again, I've said it a couple times, but James and I talked about it a little bit off air. You guys are doing stuff that we haven't seen any lineman coach do, any individual linemen do in the past, and you guys are doing it. You're way ahead of it. Where do you guys see training for offensive linemen moving forward here in the near future?
It's going to keep evolving, because, just to kind of let too as well, is that, you have some other offensive line coaches that's out there. I trained with Charles Bentley. He's probably the one who started making O-line training the thing. He's out in Arizona. So I feel like everyone is kind of following in his footsteps, because he made offensive line training fun. He made offensive line play important, and he continues to do all these different things to help elevate offensive line play. And right now he hasn't really been into the training as much now, because he started an offensive line agency. So now he has all offensive linemen signed to him, that's in the NFL. So so he's evolving everything. He's changing the game.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. Then you have Duke Manyweather that's out in Texas as well, who's doing he's doing this thing as well. And for people that don't know, Duke was LaCharles' number 2 guy, pretty much. So he kind of veered off and went to Texas and started his own thing. And and you see where it is now. So those guys kind of started things, and now you see guys like Dale, myself, and you see us coming in now, and we're pretty much changing the game. So to kind of go back, they were the guys that started, kind of like the science of it, right? And then you have guys like myself and Dale. Now we're the guys that's incorporating I don't want to say the flashiness, but we're incorporating the footwork, how important it is to have footwork with it, right? We're making the drills complex. So it's not just your average drill where, okay, we're going to have you just, mirror drill here, mirror drill. We're adding a different footwork along with the drill, which essentially that's what you're doing on the field. You know what I mean? Like, you're being put in all type of different positions. You're having guys move, and you're having these defensive linemen hit spin moves, and they're being taught. And that's the thing too. They're being taught crazy amount of moves now. So the game is evolving on both sides. D line and O line. So now it's about, okay, who's going to get the upper hand? So the game is going to continue to evolve. Like, it's going to be crazy 5 years down the line what the offensive line position is going to be.
I really didn't think, and I'll just say real quick, James, I didn't think 5 years ago that skill guys were going to be interested in jumping into offensive lineman training sessions. And now I see it literally every day at the gym. I see these guys with their heads turned watching Coach Dale do his thing. Yep. And that's so cool, because I would have never, as an athlete coming up, even thought about doing that, but it wasn't fun, and it wasn't sexy. And the guys didn't move like this. And that's so cool that you guys are doing that. James, go ahead.
Yeah. And I think, like, my favorite part about what you just said is, like, no play is actually the same. Like, we can memorize a playbook and that could be the same, but everything is so dynamic once we get out on the field for whatever the reason be. Maybe the defensive lineman uses a different move, but I like how in your drill work, not every drill, even though the setup could be the same, there's unpredictability in all the drill work that you do that really emulates that game speed, and it prevents athletes from just shutting their brain off and just going through the motion. And I really love that about both of your training that I've watched, from a distance, and then being able to be in the gym with Dale, and feel that energy and that passion and that dynamic, component to offensive line training. And, I really like to think about the long-term effect of getting these athletes passionate about their skill at a young age. And even that alone, whatever they go do, whether they even play college or not, they're going to remember their work with you beyond the skills, beyond the actual football, but learning a new skill, struggling at first, and seeing that growth and having that unpredictable environment to kind of train through. And I just think that's probably like my favorite part about watching you guys work with your kids.
Yeah. Dale, where do you see the future of the training going?
Again, I think it's evolving as we speak. To Coach Wilson's point, LaCharles Bentley was actually a Cleveland guy. He had his own gym here in Avon, and he is the main reason why I decided I wanted to get into offensive line training. I thought it was sweet. I thought what he was doing with the position was awesome. It really motivated me to say, hey, man, like, I think I can help, with this dynamic of offensive line training. And Duke is also another guy I follow as well, does great things. But I think it comes down to creativity. I think it comes down to, a little bit more than on the field drills. I think it's, starting, high schoolers to break down film, to do scouting reports, the more mental side of the game. And go piggybacking off of that, I think also, like, the mentality of the game is, kind of shifted from being like very, very aggressive and, very, nasty, to not. And then I think it's also starting to pick back up now. You got guys that are 320 pounds that can run, good 40 times, but also have that mentality of, hey, I'm going to bury you into the dirt. And I think that's something that all offensive linemen need to have. And I'm not saying that, like, we went through like a soft generation, but I think that the more linemen I see come out are more hungry to, come in and train and get better and perfect their craft. I think it's coming down to, as well as like the athlete seeing that, hey, like, offensive line matters. Like, I think it's awesome to say, like, to have kids reach out to me and saying, hey, like, I've always been looking for an offensive line trainer. I've been looking for somebody to, help me get to that next level. And it's a very rare finding. So, I feel very fortunate and blessed to, be a part of that.
Hey, Dale, that's a great point too, Dale. Like that, I think that's the difference between our generation and the generation now. I think that they do, like, these kids do see, okay, man, offensive line can be a sexy position. I do want to go train, because back then, we didn't have any offensive line trainers, but we wasn't looking for them either. We wasn't saying, okay, I want to go train. I want to go do this. Now these kids are looking to go train. They're excited about going to train. I think that's really the difference, and it's only going to continue to get better. So that's definitely a great point there. Great point.
That's awesome, Coach. I want to wrap you up with a couple questions from Instagram here. And I was actually telling Dale yesterday, before we podcast with everybody, I put a little post up for anybody asking questions that they can send them to us. You had more questions asked than anybody else we've had on in 19 other episodes of the podcast, which was pretty cool. How interested everybody was to hear this conversation. I've worked half of the questions into kind of the questions we've already talked about, but just a couple to kind of tie up loose ends. For a position that is so upper body, shoulder and forearm and wrist and finger dominant and chest, what did in-season training look like for you when you were playing? And then what does in-season training look like now? Do you suggest to your kids who are playing currently?
In-season training is really about maintenance, right? It's not about what you did. Like, your in-season and off-season training should look totally different. It's about maintaining, what you have built up until that point. You're not trying to overwork your body. You're not trying to go in there and lift the house, but you do want to make sure that you're maintaining that strength, because over time, if you do not work out, obviously you're going to lose that, lose some muscle, lose some strength and all those things. So it's about maintaining the strength that you had throughout, your off season and going into your in season mode.
Awesome. Totally agree. I love this question, and this especially because you've already mentioned you were the 15th ranked player in the nation coming out. Stars now are big, 4 stars, 5 stars. Where are these guys going? What do recruiting classes look like? Where do you stand on rankings for high school athletes coming out?
So it's two worlds to it. Some of the rankings is okay. You can understand why this kid is ranked that high. And then some of the rankings is, I don't want to make it sound disrespectful, I guess, but all I know is to be me. But because I dealt with this, so you might have a kid that's 6'6", 6'7", and he might be ranked high, right? And you might have a kid who's 6'1", 6'2", who played offensive line, and he might not even be ranked. But you may turn on their film, and the 6'7" kid, 6'8" kid, he doesn't play up to that position or that ranking or that size. Then you may have a kid who's 6'1", 6'2", and he's like a pit bull, right? Anything that lines up in front of him, he dominates. Does the ranking really matters at that point? Because technically, if we're looking at strictly the play, he probably should be ranked ahead of this guy, right? But too many times we look at the size and don't look at the dog in the kid, because, and a lot of times that's what happens with scholarships nowadays. Yeah. A kid who's 6'1", 6'2", he may be overlooked because, oh man, we have a kid who's 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". I said, okay, all right. I tell coach all the time, okay, let's turn on both films and let's watch it together, and we'll see, who would you want more? Don't look at. A lot of times the rankings is about upside. They look at, oh, this is what he can turn out to be. This is what he can possibly become. Why are we looking about possibility? Look at what's in your face right now.
Right, and I heard you even say it in a conversation previously that once you get to school and once you get to college, none of that matters. Nobody's ever played Zero. based on stars or rankings.
Nope. Rankings go out the window. We both freshmen, and a lot of times, and it's the same thing when, I had this conversation, I want to say 2 days ago, I was talking with, a matter of fact, it might have been with you, Dale. You have a free agent, right? It's the same thing with the NFL. You have a free agent, you have a first round, right? Not saying the first rounder is going to come in and just dominate everything, but people wonder why more free agents last longer in the league than, well, I want to say back end of the draft. So 6, 7 round guys, free agents, why they last longer than most first, second rounders. The reason is because they have a chip on their shoulder. They was told, you're not good enough. They was told, oh, okay, this guy is so-called better than me because he's bigger than me. So it's the same thing when you get to college. You have a guy who wasn't ranked. You have a guy who, he got a scholarship, but coach probably didn't really want to give it to him, and they wonder why a lot of times they get beat out because you're comfortable. I'm not. So you think you have it made already. And I'm coming in and I'm home. And then I'm working out with you every day. I want to work out with you every day. So I want you to see every day that I'm better than you every single day. So that's the mentality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And a lot of times those first round guys, those top picks, and obviously they're outliers, but they've been like that their whole career.
Yep.
Right. So the first time that they're faced with any adversity, they're out when these guys, these 6th, 7th round draft picks and free agents have been pushing the whole time just to get to that position. And everybody loves a good, good underdog story.
Right.
So Coach, let's wrap up here. Always ask the question where, what the guest on the podcast thinks is missing in the strength and conditioning industry. I want to know from you specifically what you think is missing in the lineman training community as we speak.
I don't know if it's necessarily missing now. I think it's starting to shine a little bit more. So previously what used to happen is they used to treat lineman training pretty much the same as everyone else. The DBs, you in college. The DBs are pretty much doing what the receivers are doing. The skill players are doing what the linebackers are doing. The linebackers are doing what the linemen are doing, right? So, they have a setup plan just like that for everyone. It may alter a little bit, like the numbers and the weight and things like that. But for the most part, we all doing the same type of workout. So now, I'm starting to see is they're starting to do drills that translates to what we do on the field. For instance, like Charles Bentley, he does a great job making sure that he's doing different techniques, different lifts that will benefit a lineman, putting them in position that will help them excel on the field. Duke Manyweather, he's doing a great job as well. So I think the biggest thing is just understanding who you're training. If you're training a lineman, train him as a lineman. You can't have him doing something that a receiver would do. You can't have them doing the same lifts. For one, they're moving bigger people. They're moving people. They have to move guys. So you have to train them as such. Put them in strenuous positions. Make them strain, make them push through. Whatever they have to get through. Not all the time, but for the most part, you have to, because we're always in a strained position all the time.
Yeah, that's cool. That will be fun to kind of keep up with. And Dale, you'll have to keep us updated on that and let us, continue to show us how the position and the field and the game is evolving. Coach, where can people find you? Social media, email, website, put it all out there for us.
Yeah, so Instagram is crafting_lineman. Twitter is crafting lineman, all one word. I'm not really on Facebook like that. Maybe I should be. My website is craftinglinemanfl.com. Email is craftinglineman@gmail.com. Don't send me too many emails. I'm not great at responding. But you can find find information, all those things on my website as well. So.
That's awesome. I had a question on Instagram as well. If there are any youth camps coming next year, is that something that they can find from your website?
Oh, definitely. So, I was telling Dale, I hold showcases. So I had a showcase last year, and the years before. So at my showcases, man, we do a great job. I partner with different companies that comes out. I was telling Dale, one thing that I did last year with my camp in the previous years was I live streamed it. So I live streamed the whole event.
Awesome.
I had college coaches on there. So I had 25 college coaches that was on there watching, because the point that I had the showcase, it was on dead period. So colleges wasn't allowed to be out and talking to kids. So I just came up with a way to kind of keep them involved, and hopefully they saw someone that, they liked. So we end up live streaming it, and everything is on my website. Right now we're looking at April to have one. So we try to host at least 3 per year, and one big showcase. The other 2 are just, smaller camps to get them kind of ready for the showcase. But the first one we're looking at April right now, and everything, yes, will be on the website once it's up.
Awesome. And I know you and Dale have talked about it before, but if you're ever in the area,
yeah,
we got the facility. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely have to come, man. And, check you guys out. Again, when it comes to facility, again, I love the facility. I work with Bomberitos down here, and I work with Perform. So I work with all these different gyms. So when I need a gym, I have it. I don't always get attached to the gym, but I love those guys pretty much.
That's awesome, Coach. Thank you so much for taking your time. Such awesome information. Great to hear your perspective. And also it was awesome being able to get Coach Dale in, because a lot of us and a lot of the community who's going to be hearing this at first are going to be people who've worked with Dale. And so it's so cool to see them, be able to then have you as somebody else to be able to reach out to and see what you're doing. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Episode 20, Cutoffs and Coffee. Again, continue everybody listening to practice gratitude. Tell the people that you love them, and you got one life to live. So you might as well live life stimulated. Coach, thanks for coming on. We'll see everybody soon.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
All right, now have a good one. See you. Appreciate you guys.